I'm just going to assume they don't want us to fly no more. You are now within minutes of horror, and your only chances of survival is hitting that like button. With that being said, let's continue on with the video. Now, in my last video that involved planes, I did ask the question, what is going on in the skies? Not only do we have people causing a great disturbance, seeing things that are not real, but we also have pilots dropping dead left and right. And now it seems like almost every day there's going to be a major plane incident. Now in May of 2023, there was an article released that said, planes are coming mysteriously close to colliding at rates unseen in 20 years, and experts are stumped. That was January to May. In July alone, there were 46 incidents of close calls. Now you may be saying this is the fault of air traffic control and who they are hiring, but even outside of near misses, there has been a record number of mechanical failure on airplanes. On August 17th, flames burst from a Southwest Airlines jet engine in the sky near Houston, forcing the distressed plane into a hasty retreat and a safe landing. Last month, a Delta flight diverted to Jacksonville after experiencing mechanical issues. 3 days ago, sparks fly from an Alaska Airlines plane after it lands in South Carolina during Tropical Storm Hilary. Now you may be thinking, maybe it was due to the bad weather, maybe they faced turbulence, until you realize it's not. Alaska Airlines Flight 1288 was unable to taxi to the gate upon arrival at the John Wayne Airport in Orange County on Sunday night because of an issue with its landing gear. So as that pilot tried to land the plane, the landing gear was jammed, and as the landing gear was trying to come out, sparks were flying everywhere. These people are very, very lucky they had an experienced pilot on that plane, because I have heard some horror stories when it comes to faulty landing gear. Planes flipping over, planes crashing, a great loss of life can happen from a faulty landing gear. Now, I don't believe people should live their life in fear. Living in fear is not a way to live. But I also do not believe in being ignorant for the sake of being ignorant, ignoring warning signs, especially when said warning signs keep being shoved in your face. There has been negative news reported every day when it comes to airplanes, almost like it's a premonition that a major disaster is imminent, whether it's a plane crash, two planes colliding, or some other major event. Almost like when we were hearing bad news about trains, and then trains in the United States were derailing left and right. Now, I thought I was going crazy. I thought maybe I'm looking for something that's not there. But come to find out, I am not the only one with this feeling. There was an article made on August 22nd, 2023. The title, "The Disaster Some See Coming to America's Skies." Every captain has stories. One commercial airline pilot said, "It's not a matter of if something happens, but when." Now, the last major plane crash in the United States was in 2009, when a plane going to Buffalo, New York crashed, ending the life of all 49 people on board. Now, here's the very chilling part of the article, and it correlates to what I've been saying. Everyone I've spoken to in the commercial aviation recently about these near misses agreed. There's a pulse in the industry that says we're close to something happening. Now, in the last part of the article, it says, and during the pandemic, airlines offered buyouts and early retirement only to find themselves unprepared for the wide resumption of travel. The result, a pilot shortage. And I'm told major airlines are putting less experienced pilots in charge of planes. Now, what may be happening is that with the Big C here and 3 new variants, we may be experiencing new mandates and lockdowns going into September and October, and this could really dent the wallet of the airlines. And we do know when it comes to insurances, there are some big payouts to be had with these style of events. So don't be surprised when you go into September and you hear some of these near misses are no longer near misses. And I wonder, does this go hand in hand with these people seeing non-human entities on their planes, causing their planes to be delayed and not take off? Because previously, I thought Tom Calling's freakout on his plane happened while he was in the air, and that's not the case. He was doing it before takeoff. Same with Tiffany Gomez. She freaked out before they took off, and the Russian man and the Chinese man. This never happened in the air. This happened before takeoff. So I'm wondering if these people are seeing death and it's scaring them so much that the entire plane has to be delayed. And with delaying the plane, it avoids a major collision in the air. And now, while that may sound crazy, it has been documented that multiple people in history have had premonitions of not only their plane crash, but also somebody else's plane crash as well. Now you can Google a lot of these examples, but I am going to give two examples. One was a young boy who had a premonition of his death on MH17.
And there are two things I want to see if they're actually true. Is it true that the young one started talking about flying and being worried and what might happen, and that your family believes he may have sensed something coming? Is that true?
Yeah, whether you want to call it a premonition or whatever, but I mean, the eerie thing was that right before getting on the flight, after going through passport control, he ran back to his mom and my sister, who was standing next to me, and he said, what's going to happen if the plane is going to crash and I'm going to die? I'm afraid to fly. And she said, don't worry, you've flown so many times before on your own. You've been unaccompanied minor on many flights before. You'll be safe. Your big brother is there. Everything's going to be fine. And he said, what's going to happen if I die? And what if God asked me a question? What should I tell him? And so, now that you think back on it, it's just incredibly sad. And I wish we had been able to stop him from getting on that flight.
Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. And Samira, I hope you're not doing that. You know that kids say things all the time. It means something now. But please, don't put yourself there. That's not fair to you. And it is true, there's a third boy. And there was no seat available on this flight. Otherwise, he would have been on it also.
Correct.
But he wasn't. He's home. He's safe.
He's safe. He's home. But he's, of course, devastated.
Another famous premonition that is even documented in the FAA took place in May 1979. 23-year-old David Booth, a Cincinnati office manager, had a well-documented premonition that came to him in a series of vivid dreams regarding an American Airlines crash. Booth frantically called the FAA and spoke with representatives of American Airlines. He told them in no vague terms that he had a vision of an airplane going down in flames among tall buildings.
Everybody talks about a dream, and everybody has dreams. I didn't have a dream, I had a vision.
David Booth is still haunted today by what he lived through over 25 years ago.
The dream would always start out in the same way. It was a bright, sunlit day, and I'm looking at a very large airport and a very long runway. And there's a really large plane, and I can see American Airlines. I see the plane starting to taxi on the runway, and it gathers up speed. All of a sudden, as it's going off, there's a perception in my mind that there's something wrong with the sound that the engine is making. The plane all of a sudden seems to go almost go straight up in the air, and then it turns just like this, and then goes straight down into the ground and explodes in this humongous inferno. And then this wave of despair, just like a physical object would just hit you right in your chest. Next morning, the same thing, the same time, right in waking up. And it wouldn't stop. I've got to do something about this. What can I do about this? The only thing that I knew to do was to call the FAA. And that's what I did, fully expecting to just have the phone hung up at me.
David sounded perfectly sane and credible. There was nothing kooky about him at all. He'd had a disturbing dream 7 nights in a row. He had a problem, and I listened to him. It was my job to do that.
Every day it got worse and worse and worse. Not knowing what to do, not knowing what I was supposed to do. Not being able to forget an image seared not just into my mind, but into the very fabric of my entire being.
Well, I would talk to him and listen to him. David's dream didn't give you enough information to do anything with. It didn't give a location, it didn't give a flight, some numbers which didn't make any sense. And I said, well, thank you. There's nothing we can do about it, but thank you for the information.
May 25th, 1979. I knew I'll never have this dream again. It's going to happen soon.
On Friday morning, he called again to our Cincinnati office, and then he patched back into me and said he'd now had the dream 10 nights in a row.
got up, went to work. I was at work for 15 minutes when the phone rang. Dave, I'm sorry to tell you, American Airlines DC-10 just crashed an hour ago on takeoff. Nobody survived.
In Chicago, taking off from O'Hare Airport, a silver American Airlines airplane that had an engine in the tail crashed, not inverted, but turning, after it passed over an abandoned hangar, a low building. It hit me as to how accurate he was. What he dreamed was, in fact, basically what happened. You've got to experience that to understand how eerie it is.
I still think about, and I always still wonder, was there anything else that I could have done? Was there anything else Jack could have done?
I don't think there's any way that David could have done any more than he did. You've got to remember, in aviation alone, there's over 20 to 25,000 flights a day by the scheduled airlines. So it's difficult to pinpoint a particular future event. In the 30 years I was with FAA, that was the only time anybody ever called in with any kind of a dream like that I'm aware of.
I'm not the only one that these things happen to. I'm just the stupid fool that actually called the FAA before it happened.
And on that same month, May 25th, American Airlines Flight 191 crashed near Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. A total of 273 people died, all 258 passengers and 13 crew members on the aircraft, as well as 2 individuals at the crash site. So it makes you wonder, are these people who are so upset at seeing something that is not real, are they actually having a premonition? Because I and a few others, on the alternate angle of Tom Cowling's video, you can hear him say, "It's your time, you died." And of course, Tiffany Gomas over and over again says, "Don't let that plane leave, it's not going to make it." Delaying that plane for almost 3 hours, and maybe by doing so, she avoided a collision in the skies.
I don't care if I'm ever fly with y'all ever again. I want to know what happens to this flight right here.
Great.
Great. I don't ever want to fly with you ever again.
If you don't leave, you'll be under arrest for criminal trespass. This is your warning right here.
Do not let that flight leave. Being dead serious. Do not let that flight leave.
You ready? Let's go. Come on.
But I do want to hear from you. Do you believe this all could be a coincidence? Or do you happen to believe premonitions are real? Please comment below. In any case, thank you so much for watching. If you do like this channel and you want to see more, please subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please like, as any engagement does help the channel grow. Once again, thank you so much for your support.